Greetings from London. This is Mariam Sharif, and welcome to the Star Moguls podcast. This is our last and final episode for 2020, and I wanted you to be inspired for 2021. So I brought in this guest of mine, beautiful soul and a beautiful person that I discovered on TikTok. You know, I'm a fan of TikTok for finding guests, and I absolutely love the community there. So if you want to go into 2021 full of inspiration, you will just feel like motivated for 2021. You won't wait until it can start. So my next guest is a motivational speaker. She's a TED talker, and all the way from the States, Geet. Welcome, Geet.
Hi, nice to join
Hi,
you.
how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So, Geet, I discovered you from TikTok, and I was just strolling along and going through my feed, and I came across you a couple of times, and you kept on popping up. And I think that's the way that TikTok works. But I love the community there, and I discovered you there. And I didn't, this wasn't in your introduction, but when I started listening to your talks, and so motivational, and about relationships, about life, I actually thought you were a psychologist, and I was like, oh, because the psychology says, and the psychologist's point of view is this. And I was like, oh, okay. So actually, in fact, this is nothing what you studied. This is not.
No, I study psychology for fun on the side,
Yeah.
but I studied engineering and then I did law when I was in college. So engineering, because all Desi families want you to be an engineer. And then
Yeah.
my dad had this thing where he was like, once you're an engineer, you could do anything you want to do. And so I went on to law school. I got my doctorate in law and I practiced for a few years. And then I moved to India, started working with slum kids, and I've always really been interested in psychology. So I do a lot of reading. So I'm like a student of psychology. So I try to share some of those tips on TikTok when I'm making videos, just because things that I find insightful or things that I find useful in my own life, I'm like, okay, somebody else could maybe benefit from this.
Yeah, and the reason that I've bought on Geet today is I didn't know. I must admit, after watching so many of your videos on TikTok, it's only when I actually profiled you and researched you that I actually discovered that you had an accident, sadly, when you were 10 years old, and from that car accident, you were wheelchair bound. And so the audience doesn't know the fact that this motivational speaker has had an incredible journey. So that must have been a life-changing moment for you at 10 years old. I mean, that's very young, and must have been completely changed the course of your life.
Yes. I mean, I think a 10-year-old is at that point in their life where they feel like they're going to be independent now. Finally, I could do everything by myself. I don't need mom to help me. And all of a sudden we have this car accident and I found myself completely helpless at first because I had to relearn how to do everything, from putting on my clothes to moving around in a wheelchair to reaching things that were up high because I can't stand anymore. And so for me, I actually don't remember a lot of that time because I think it was so traumatic. My brain has like blocked that out. But my mom tells me that I used to basically cry all day long. If I wasn't at school, if I wasn't doing something, I would just sit and cry because I felt like my life was over. I felt like I was never going to be anything. I was never going to be able to do anything. I was just going to be an invalid. And everywhere I went, people used to stare at me. They'd feel sorry for me. And I started feeling sorry for myself. So definitely it was a really difficult time, I think, for me and for my entire family.
So you were in the States at that time, and obviously it's a different mindset. You still have some kind of coping mechanism where you're still a little bit more, but I guess, matters, instance like that really change your life, and it really does change the direction of your life, doesn't it?
It really does.
So how did you navigate through kind of your, for college and university, and actually, you're a doctorate, and so you're an engineer, and you also have a doctorate in law.
Doctorate in law
Yeah.
at Geet. Yeah. So basically for me, at the point of the car accident, I had two choices. Like, I was crying a lot. I was really depressed, but then I realized that I had two choices. Either I can just give up. I could say, I can't do this and I can give up, or I can try. I could decide that I'm going to do everything that I want to do. I'm going to make my life valuable. I'm gonna fulfill all my dreams. And that's kind of what I chose. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I had a very supportive family. I had a very supportive school system, and I had a strong faith in God. And I think all three of those together really, really helped me to step out of this, to step out of the depression, and to actually accomplish things in life. Like within 3 months, I actually was back in school because
Fantastic.
it
And I
was
think that's the best thing, isn't it? To go and do back the things that you can
try to make
immediately.
to try to normalize your life as much
Yes.
as possible. I think that was really important. So I was back in school, and everyone was just told to treat me normal. And that was, I think, the best thing that could have happened, because even like my physical education teacher, I think he's one of those ones that really made an impact in my life. Because as a person in a wheelchair, as a child in a wheelchair, I didn't even think that I was going to be going to gym class anymore. But the teacher, he actually bought a wheelchair. And every time during gym class, when there's two teams, the other team would have one student sit in the wheelchair. And the kids used to fight over who gets to sit in the wheelchair. And then he would make these different kinds of rules. Like if we were playing kickball, somebody has to kick the ball. I can't kick the ball. So
Yes.
he would allow me to choose one person from our team to kick the ball for me. And then I would run the bases with my wheelchair.
Right.
And so everybody, of course, wanted me to be on their team, because then the strongest kicker would get two chances. And so, it was a way of spinning everything in a positive way. And that first year when I went back to school, I actually became student body president. I got straight A's. I participated in the school play. I danced on stage.
Oh, wow.
I participated in sports day activities. So it was like I did everything. And I think that for me just kind of made a pattern for what I did for the rest of my life. Because right after the accident, I was expected to be normal, and I was expected to do everything normally.
Yeah.
And so I expected that of myself after that too. And yes, there were fears. There were fears as I was going through school, as I was going through college, especially when I went to college. Like school, it felt safe. It was a small community. Everyone knew me. Even, when I switched schools, you have a group of friends that go with you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as scary. But when it was time to go to the university, and there's like 30,000 students, and none of my friends are going to be going into engineering with me, it was scary. It was definitely scary. I didn't know how other people would react to me. I didn't even know how I was going to get from class to class, because the classrooms were so far away from each other.
Yeah.
And so, so that I think was a challenge. And there were always challenges throughout life, but it was really just a matter of deciding I have to give it a try, and I have to make a way.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about kind of just the aspects of what you would entail, this the kind of I would say the skill of actually operating a wheelchair and then kind of maneuvering that. You must have great biceps, by the way.
I am pretty strong.
Because people don't realize that it takes a lot of strength for you to operate and kind of maneuver the wheelchair. So and having kind of looking life in a different, I guess, in a different perception as well. You're having to look at life through a different lens, and kind of developing certain different skills, like and different strengths. For example, you're operating your wheelchair. How did you come around with the dancing? Because I'm interested about that. How does the dancing happen in the wheelchair? And is it Bollywood, or is it
It's Bollywood. It's Bollywood. Part of Desi culture is Bollywood dancing, right? Bollywood.
We're all brought up in Bollywood. If you don't know Bollywood, you're not invited. You're not part of the conversation.
Exactly. And I'm from a Punjabi family. So Punjabis, are even more, dance is just in our blood. And so actually the year right before the accident is when I actually got into dance. So I was like 9 years old, and that was the first time my mom tells this story, and she's like, I was a really bad dancer. I was horrible. I was clumsy. I was, awkward. But I decided that I wanted to dance at International Day at school. And so my mom says that I actually watched videos and learned the dance and performed. I was just determined that this is something that I'm going to do. And so after the accident, at first it was like, oh, I can't dance, but I started to teach dance. My sister and I would teach dance, because I was good at choreography. So I would choreograph these dances, and I would explain to my sister. My sister and I have a really good connection that way. And I would explain them to her, and then she would teach the kids, and we would teach like kids ranging from 6 to their teenage years. And we would teach them dances to perform at the the Diwali festival that they would have. Like they'd have this big function in our community. And so I started doing that. And then I started singing. I wasn't very good, but I would sing and I would dance with my hands during the song because the song would be boring and I wasn't a very good singer. So it was like, you have to entertain, because I wanted to perform at these Diwali functions because everyone was performing. My family was all performing. It was, my sisters were performers. And so I was like, I want to do this too. So it was like trying to figure out a way to do it. So I was always doing that, but it wasn't like I was dancing. It was more teaching other people dance. And then a few years ago, there was a reality show on TV called
All right. In the States or
in India.
Oh, in India. Yeah.
In India, it was called India's Best Cine Stars Ki Khoj, where they were looking for the next Bollywood star. And I actually grew up, my dream growing up was to be an actress, to be a Bollywood actress. I think that's everyone's dream maybe, but
right. Okay.
it's my dream. And but after the car accident, that really seemed impossible. Before the car accident, I was not aiming to be the heroine. I wanted to be the hero's mother. That was like the time period we would have the mother who would
very straight for the mother's part.
Yeah, that was what I wanted. I was like, there were these movies and there would be this mother and she would always die and she would always tell her kids to take revenge. And so I somehow was just enthralled by this mother at the age of 9. And I would literally just die at the dinner table all of a sudden. Like I'd be sitting there eating dinner and all of a sudden I die, And I'm like telling my kids to like take revenge. And so that this was like how I grew up. I wanted to be this actress. And, that's why I participated in the school play right after the accident. I kept taking drama classes and I kept this dream alive. But then when I was in 12th grade, my teacher actually said, she pulled me aside and she said, you know what, I just want to be honest with you. No one wants to see a girl in a wheelchair on the big screen or on stage. And that's just, it's just practical. And you need to think about what else you can do in this field. Maybe you could do set design. Maybe you could write scripts. Maybe you could be a director. Right. But, and she wouldn't even let me participate in the school play that year. And she was like, no, and I was like, okay. And unfortunately, I believed her. I thought, okay, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, she knows it. Yeah.
And so when I went to college, I did take drama classes, but I never performed. It was always learning the art or learning, behind the scenes, what happens. And that was kind of all my extra classes would always be drama classes. And then, as I grew older and like when we moved to India to work with slum kids, in India, like acting and drama and TV and movies, that's just such a big part of culture that yes. I realized very fast that if we would put little skits together and perform them in the slums, that was the best way to reach these kids with a message that they would remember. Like they would actually remember it. And so I would get these teams of like youth together and I would write the script, I would direct it, I would teach them everything, but I would never act myself. But now there's a reality show on TV. My sister knows that this has been my dream since I was little. And she's like, you gotta try. And I'm like, they don't want a girl in a wheelchair on this show. And that too in India, I mean, in America, you don't see people in wheelchairs very often.
Exactly. So, yeah.
And so I was like, in India, they definitely don't want to see that. But my sister was like adamant. She was like, it's going to be fun. She was like, even if you don't make it, let's just go. We see these reality shows on TV. You see these crowds of people.
So you applied from the States?
No, I was in India at the time and my sister was there as well. And so she was visiting. And so we decided, okay, you know what? We're just going to do it. I had 2 days. I prepared a little piece from a movie called Damini. And we went to our auditions. And so, at the auditions, to my surprise, like, I think when they first saw me, they thought I was just there as the TRP factor, like the feel good factor. I was trying to be that person. But when I actually started like performing during the auditions, you could just see their jaw would drop. The judges, they would just be like, they would be speechless. Like they didn't know what to do. And I started clearing audition after audition. Like we got there at 6 o'clock in the morning and my sister and I didn't leave there till 9 o'clock at night because I kept clearing all the auditions and kept getting moved onto next step, the next level. And then they actually invited us back for the next day of auditions. And then we had telephone auditions. And then we finally got invited to Mumbai for the first round of Mumbai auditions. And then, I finally ended up making it to the top 75, and they disqualified me at that point in the dance round.
Oh, okay.
There was a dance round and they said, sorry, you can't dance. And so we're disqualifying you at this point. And I mean, I had done the dance with everybody, but I guess it wasn't up to what they wanted.
Right.
And so at that point is when I really decided, I was like, you know what? No one tells me I can't do something. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn this. And that summer I just practiced and learned and did everything I could to learn different dances and I actually started posting them on YouTube just to see what people's response would be.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah.
And so, so that's kind of where the wheelchair dance started.
So I must say, and also add that now you are actually, the first South Asian actress in a wheelchair, basically, aren't you? So that's quite a title.
I still haven't done anything Bollywood yet, which is my dream. So I'm still working towards that, but I've done a lot of short film type things. And I've just completed a web series that we're editing right now, and so we'll be posting it soon. But yeah, my goal is still to make it somehow to Bollywood, either in serials or on the big screen. So I'm still working towards that. I haven't given up that goal, but kind of alongside that, I've started doing a lot of this motivation, and because actually the reason I got into social media was not to be a motivator. Was not to provide relationship advice, was not to be a life coach type of person. I actually started social media to figure out if what my teacher in 12th grade had said was right or wrong. I started a Facebook page, and the theme of that page was, I want to be an actress in a wheelchair. Will you support me? And within 6 months, I had 1.5 million people following my Facebook page.
Yeah, I've seen your following is huge. Mashallah, you have, I think I was just looking even just on TikTok, because obviously I've discovered you from TikTok. I think nearly over 5 million now, combined. And so you have two accounts. I must say that
I have 3 different accounts on TikTok.
Yeah, I discovered 2. I thought you had 2 accounts, one a Hindi account and one.
I have a Hindi motivation account. I have an English motivation account. And then I actually teach English as well, which is something that people started requesting. I'm not an English teacher, but when I started TikTok, I started with my Hindi motivation account. Yeah. And that's I think at about 4.7 million right now. And when I started that, people realized that I wasn't a native Hindi speaker. I speak with a little bit of an accent. So people were like, can you teach us English? And I was like, I'm not an English teacher. I've never done this before, but I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. Because I was like, I just want to do something that'll help people, that'll make a difference. And so I started my English channel where I teach English. And that within literally a week, I had 100,000 followers within a week.
Amazing.
And that account is now at 6.7 million followers. And then a year ago, I started my English motivation account, because I actually started it thinking, hey, you know what, I want to reach a broader audience. I'm reaching the Hindi speaking audience, but even within India, there's so many people that do not speak Hindi. Sorry. And then there's so many people in the, so many desis outside of India who, could benefit from this content, and just other people, right? So I decided to start that channel. It was very slow going, but, since TikTok got banned in India, that channel has grown a lot, because that's been kind of my focus.
Right.
But yeah. So
is TikTok still banned in India?
It is still banned in India.
Oh, I didn't realize that it had been banned. I just thought it was banned temporarily, because I know that the States had some kind of
in the US they talked about that.
They didn't.
But they never actually banned it in the US. But in India, they actually banned it back, I think, July 1st or something like that. And so it's been banned for quite a while. I'm still hopeful that it will come back eventually, that, whatever issues there were will be resolved. But yeah, because I just like you, I love TikTok. I think it's a great platform. It's, the community is just so honest and open and accepting is something that
I love creativity. And so for me, that aspect was just amazing. And, more so, and it's been used for education now, which I think is brilliant, because I'm a fellow, former teacher myself. So I love the fact that you can combine creativity with education and, And that's what I love. But it is a beautiful, I really, really, none of my friends are on TikTok, but I absolutely love it. I just think, okay, I'm gonna actually get some tips from you and be more active for next year.
And it totally, I mean, yeah, when I started TikTok 2 years ago, I started it and no one was doing education or anything like
Yeah.
that. It was purely just lip sync and dancing and things like that. And I actually started it for a reason similar to that. I started it because my grandmother, she was 87 years old, and we had made a whole bunch of comedy videos together.
Oh,
Like
really?
20-second videos. Like that's what we would do in our free time. Like every day from 3 to 5, we would literally shoot comedy videos together because my grandmother loves to act. And so, but
Do you
then I
get,
didn't know what
do you
to
get
do.
the acting gene from your granny?
I think so. Like no one knew this until I actually started in on social media and I started making the short films on socially relevant topics.
Yeah.
And I actually asked my grandmother to be in some of the films because I needed an elderly woman. And of course, family is all I knew. So I was like, family. And I very well expected her to say no. But she was like, okay, yeah. And then when she did it, she was so natural. Like literally, I had a scene where she was supposed to be like dying and she's like crying. She's crying in the scene. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's really good. Like she got married when she was 16. So I think she never actually had the opportunity to
Oh,
be or do what she wanted to do. And no one ever knew that this was a talent or a secret desire of hers.
yeah.
So she loves acting and she usually normally like in the afternoon she needs to sleep and rest. But if I would ever tell her, hey, let's shoot videos, she would be like, she'd be up before I was up.
Oh, how
Sometimes I wouldn't
sweet.
even
And
tell her.
that's what, there's no limit to, especially social media and what you say and how you project yourself. There is no limit. You can be you can, as long as you've got something good to say, and then
Yeah,
you'll have an audience. And I've
exactly.
gone really crazily, I don't know what's going on my my lighting. Give me 1 second. I look like a ghost.
TikTok for these videos that I created with my grandmother. I thought that they would, I was like, let's make her famous on TikTok.
Yeah.
I never used TikTok before this. But I did my research and everyone was saying, you have to post like 5 videos a day to actually do well on TikTok. So I was like, okay, I'll post one comedy video and then I have a lot of motivational content from the rest of my social media. So I was like, I'll post some of that as well. And from the first motivational video I posted, the response was phenomenal. Like I had people just saying, this is what I needed to hear. This is changing my life. Like one of the early videos I posted was on domestic violence. And I actually had a woman say, this was that extra push I needed to leave my abusive relationship. And so
Wow.
when I saw the power, like I had never thought that a 20-second video could change someone's life, like it could make a difference. And when I saw the power of TikTok and the power of these videos, and I was like, this, like when I moved to India from the States, it was really to make a difference. It was because I wanted to do something positive and I started working in the slums with at-risk
Yeah,
youth.
when was that then? What year did you
That was
that you
a few years back, like about 5, 6 years back. And so I doing that, for me, TikTok has just been an extension of that. For me, TikTok has been, I always tell people I could go into the slums and I could reach 20 to 100 kids. But through TikTok, making one 20-second video, I can reach hundreds and thousands of people with the exact same message.
Yeah.
And so, as I started doing the motivation and it started receiving such a positive response, the comedy didn't receive such a great response, so the comedy videos kind of faded away. Uh, yeah, those kind of faded away. I started posting more and more motivation, and just it's the response that keeps me going. Like even yesterday, I got a man messaged me, and he said, watching your videos has saved my relationship so many times. Like I watch your videos, and I realize what I am doing wrong, and I fix myself. And he was like, you are like the engine to my train. I have to
Oh,
watch, what you're saying. And I mean, to me, that is like, it makes it all worth it, because sometimes you get tired, sometimes you're like, I'm not getting views. But when somebody says that, especially when someone says it changed, like it's easy to point fingers at someone else and say, hey, you know what, she says this in her video, you need to change. But
yeah.
this man is like introspecting. He's figuring out what he needs to change, and he's fixing his own life, which is in turn fixing his relationships. And I just, to me, that was like amazing. But that is the power of social media. And people
Yeah.
don't realize that you really can make such a huge impact and such a big difference through social media. And for me, like, especially during the pandemic time where I can't be in India, I can't be going into the slums, I can't be doing the things that I love to do. Social media has really allowed me to continue the work that gives me so much joy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love your advice, and I think that's why I think it resonated. And then you popped up once and twice, and I was like, okay, I kind of like, because it's just it's snippets, isn't it? It's not so much that you can't understand it. It's just enough for you to take something and then digest it.
And I
And
always tell
so
people, I'm not saying
simple,
anything, I'm not saying rocket science, right? I'm not
yeah,
saying anything new. It's stuff that you know, but you just need to be reminded.
yeah. And what I love is that you know, so are you married, Geet? I just wanted to ask you. No, you're not married. So, sometimes I always say that sometimes people that aren't married give the best advice. And so I just thought, okay, you know what? I've also just recently launched a kind of a matchmaking service, and I had that 10 years ago, and I was in London. I just moved back from Dubai. And so when I was, and I think part of it was because I was listening to so much relationship advice and looking at my service, and I just thought, well, this lady's giving such great, and it's from a psychology point of view, and that's what I kind of really liked. Um, so when I looked at it, I was like, that's great. So entering 2020, what is the kind of advice that you would give, people that are in relationships or to start a relationship, you know,
2021.
as a base? That's quite a broad question, but as someone who wants to enter,
I think,
relationship.
I think we're all in a really weird place right now in our lives and in this whole world. And I think entering 2021, we need to be a little bit kinder and a little bit more forgiving. Because I'm seeing a lot of people coming to me for advice and they're like, my partner is behaving strangely all of a sudden, ever since the lockdown. And so I always tell people, hey, you know what? Let's not take any drastic steps. Let's not make any drastic decisions right now because everyone is going through a hard time and everyone is processing it in a different way. And everyone, like, I think we need to give each other a little bit of slack. I think don't hold everyone up to that super high standard right now. Understand that other people are also going through a hard time. There are people who are losing their jobs. There are people who are, who are finding it hard to put food on the table. And imagine if your spouse is that person, they're not going to behave the way they were behaving before. There are going to be things that are, and sometimes they're internalizing it because they don't want to add that stress to you because maybe you're stressed out because the kids are home and they're not going to school and you've got that extra stress. So I always tell people, especially during this time, and I think in this coming year, I think we need to learn to forgive. I think that is one of the greatest things. If we can learn to forgive and learn to just try to see things from the other person's perspective, I think at this time point, at this time period with what's going on in the world, I think that is going to save a lot of relationships. And it's also going to help you to understand your partner a lot better than maybe, holding them to the same standard that you held them to earlier. Of course, there's basics, there's basics like if they're cheating on you or if there's any sort of abuse, you do not allow that. But if there's little things, like they're just, maybe not giving you as much time, maybe they're, a little bit
If
quieter.
they're giving you too much time.
Maybe they're giving you too much time. Yes, that's true. Yeah, but yeah, so I think we just have to be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more forgiving, and spend this time. Don't waste it. Like a lot of times
Yeah,
we're just wasting the time. Like, don't waste it. Spend it learning to. A lot of people have a hard time with self-love, and I always say that self-love, until you love yourself, it's really hard to love other people to that level,
absolutely,
and it's really
absolutely.
hard to be loved
It's
at the level that you
fundamental,
want to be
isn't
loved.
it? Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I would say that, maybe this pandemic in a way is a blessing because you're getting time to spend time with yourself. And the only way you're going to love yourself is when you spend time with yourself, because how do you fall in love with somebody else? Spending time with them. And so if you never spend time with yourself, doing the things that you love to do, thinking about yourself, thinking about what you want, you're not actually ever going to fall in love with yourself. So use this time during the pandemic to fall in love with yourself, because that is going to change the way you behave in any relationship. And again, relationships is not just you and your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend. It's your relationship with your parents, with your kids, with your siblings, with your boss. I always say that school teaches us everything. They teach us math and science, but no one ever teaches us relationships. And I think that's kind of why I've really drifted towards doing motivation in the relationship realm. Like, I actually initially, for the first few years, if you look back at most of my content, it was not relationship based. It's really been since I started TikTok about 2 years ago. I was initially not doing that much relationship then either, but I just saw that as I started doing relationship advice videos, people were resonating with that. And that was something that they really needed. Like, there's a lot of people out there telling you to be positive and telling you to, pick yourself back up. But there's very few people out there actually teaching you how to make your relationship stronger, how to get what you want out of your relationship. And
Yeah.
I felt like, as I started doing that more and more, I just really connected with the audience, and I felt like I was providing a service that, there's a need for.
Yeah, and I think obviously this year it's been one of those most difficult years I think anybody has kind of gone through, where relationships and having the relationship and understanding yourself first is foremost. I think that until you understand yourself, you can't have a relationship and improve the relationships around you. So absolutely kind of paramount, I think.
Yeah.
What is the biggest kind of lesson that you've learned from 2020?
I have learned that you can't always live with a plan. You have to be willing to go with the flow. Like, you have to be adjustable, you have to be flexible, and you have to make the most of whatever situation you're in. Because honestly, I entered 2020 with amazing dreams of, like, I had plans of what I was going to do, and I had strategies of how I was going to implement it. And it was like 2020 was going to be my year
Yeah.
to actually, I had my plan to get into Bollywood. Like, I had my plan. And I was like, and then all of a
This is the
sudden,
Bollywood year. Was this the Bollywood year then?
yes, this was going to be my Bollywood year. And then, the pandemic hits, and literally we were in the States. We usually come back for Christmas. And so we were in the States, and my brother, of course, never wants us to leave. So he's like, stay a little bit longer, stay a little bit longer. So
Yeah.
we were here till almost March. And then like, we go back. And then within a week, my brother's like, hey, there's a pandemic that's starting. You need to be back. And I'm like, no, 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 no. In India, no one was talking about it at that time,
Yeah.
right? It's like, no, it's not happening in India.
Yeah. It's not happening there.
And we're like, yeah, the warm weather is gonna kill it. It's not gonna affect India.
Yes.
It's like, no. And my brother kept calling us and telling us to at least stay home, at least not to go into the markets. And we're like, he's like, where are you? And we're like, oh, we're in the market shopping. So we're doing everything. And then literally, I started reading the news, and I kind of got an inkling that some of the countries were about to shut down, like they were not going to allow flights.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? We're coming back. And literally the day that we had our flight, that day at midnight, India was stopping their flights out of India. So we literally were like on one of the last
Lucky.
flights out. And it was just because my brother had been pushing us and telling us, hey, this thing is going on. Because in India, everything was happened like this. It was like they did
Yeah.
not give you warning that
Yeah.
this is going to happen, so you need to prepare. It was just like all of a sudden, they woke up and they were like, hey, we're shutting down the country. And so we were just really blessed that my brother had, arranged it in such a way that we were on that flight out, and we were able to, because I think this pandemic time, it's been really good to be with family.
Yeah.
I think,
Absolutely.
being alone.
And those people who are actually fortunate to have family,
Yes.
I
And so,
think they valued their family members and their family much more, I think they would have, than any other year. So,
yes, definitely. And so I think this year's really been a year of just realizing that you have to learn to adjust with whatever's going on, and you have to learn to make the most of it and still be happy, and to find happiness and to find joy in whatever you're doing. And even if that means that your plans are not going to happen right now, I mean, you could. I'm saying right now because I still have my plans, but
yeah.
it'll be in the
And I
future.
think this has been the year, Geet. I think for so many people, even myself included, because new decade, a new year, and such ambitious plans of I'm going to do this and I'm going to conquer the world, and I'm going to do everything that I wanted to, that I didn't do last decade. It was like a new decade, a new start for so many people. And unfortunately, and actually that's a blessing as well. And I think if people look at it as a blessing, that okay, with the plans that you were going to do, were they worth it? Or can you build on it? Can you do more research? And I think if you've that, everything serves purposes. I know so many friends of mine who've started businesses. So it's if you can turn it around, like you said, like into a positive, then I think it's a blessing for so many.
Yes, no, I think it is. I think, like you said, it drew us closer to our families, and it helped us to really introspect and figure out what we really want out of life. Like, do I really just want to keep living this 9 to 5 job, or is there some dream that I've been putting off? And sometimes it gave a lot of people time to pursue that dream that they have and to do those things. And so, yeah, so I think it has been a blessing. It's definitely not been planned, but it's been a blessing in many ways. Of course, there's been a lot of heartbreak with all the people who've been getting sick, and a lot, all the people that have passed away. But
yeah, no, I mean, we've had deaths in the family, and it is tragic. And then it just makes you realize that for me, I'm always, running around, helping others. And this year's allowed me to take a breath and just connect with myself, and just, prioritize things and reserve the energy for myself. And I think and I was running on empty for so many years. I think this has been such a, especially having COVID symptoms in the beginning of the year, it's really allowed me to kind of, take stock and think, okay, where am I, and really pay attention to my health. So that's been, but the fact that you're such an inspirational person, beautiful person, is there somebody that inspires you?
actually, the people that inspire me are honestly just everyone I meet. I actually say this, people say, is that just a statement? But it's actually true. One of the things I love to do is I like to, like when I'm in India, especially, I like to just go into the marketplace or go to a monument and literally just talk to people. It could be
Yes.
the vendors, it could be other tourists, and just talk to people and just learn their stories. I used to do this a lot, and I used to actually post a lot of the stories on my Facebook page back in the day. And I would just, like talk to the little girls who are selling jewelry or trinkets. And one of the questions that I would always ask them is, if you had 3 wishes, what would you wish for? And just, when you hear what they would wish for, it's amazing. Like the things, and most of them, it was amazing to me that most of the people who had very little didn't wish for amazing things for themselves. They
Oh,
were wishing for things for their family. Like, I want my sister's husband to stop beating her, and I want my, and I want this to happen. Or, it was amazing to see and hear the stories. And as you start talking to people, you start hearing these stories. And I realized that every single person has something that they can inspire us with. And it's just a matter of asking them the right questions. And a lot of times they don't even realize that they are as inspirational as they are, because I feel like in this world, we are all really the same. We all go through the same issues. We all face the same obstacles. And as we start like sharing with one another, we learn from each other's experiences. I know I was doing a podcast a couple of days ago, and the host asked me a question, and he said, what's the difference between the content you create for an Indian audience as opposed to the content that you're creating for an American audience,
yeah.
or a Western audience? And I was like, you know what? When I thought about it, I was like, it is almost exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
We're,
relationships are the
we're,
same.
our emotions are the same, aren't they? That we feel the same emotions no matter where we live, no matter where we are, we go through the same
Yeah,
emotion.
I
So
mean, I think there's a few cultural things that would be different. Like if I'm
yeah.
talking to a Desi audience, I'm going to talk about arranged marriages, which I would not talk about
Yeah.
in a
Yes.
Western culture, or just joint families and things like that are not necessarily as prevalent in Western culture. But overall, it's really the same, because people are the same. We go through this. We have the same experiences, the same questions. I mean, my number one question these days is how to maneuver a long distance relationship because of COVID. So many people are in long distance relationships right now,
Yeah.
or had
And
to
what
deal
advice would
with.
you give to them if they are in long distance relationships? If that's the number one question, is that the
Maybe
number
that
one
is one
question
of the
you're
number
getting?
one questions right now. For long distance relationships, I would say the most important thing is communication. And communication doesn't just mean that you guys need to keep talking every day, but actually you should really make it a point to talk every day, even if it's for a few minutes or if it's through text, but every single day you need to communicate. But that communication has to be a certain type of communication. You need to be really open and honest with each other. You really need to tell the other person what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think, one of the keys to a strong any relationship, but especially in a long distance relationship, because in a long distance relationship, the biggest problem is insecurity. You
Yes,
are not
that's right.
seeing this person on a daily basis, and
Yeah.
so you start becoming insecure. Like, what are they doing? Who are they hanging out with? Why are they hanging out with this person? But if the person has already told you, hey, I'm going to this party and I'm going to be seeing these people, then when you see those pictures pop up on someone else's feed, you're not like, was he
Yeah.
cheating on me? Was,
I
what were
didn't
they
know
doing
about
this?
this.
So really that insecurity is that communication becomes so much more important when you're not seeing this person on a daily basis, when you can't physically touch them. Really, being open, honest, and supportive of one another. Like, maybe you can't hold the person's hand, but you can somehow still let them know that you're there for them, that you care about them, that what's important to them is important to you. I always say another thing to do in long distance relationships is trying to make it as normal as possible. Like, actually go on virtual dates. Like, actually, it shouldn't just be that you guys are just talking at night, the little bit of time that you have, or in between stuff. Actually plan times that are your time. And that's like when you go on a date, you actually block everyone else out at that point, right? Your focus is on this person. And so when it's your date time, you're not accepting other phone calls. You're not, distracted with other things, because in a long distance relationship, a lot of times while we're talking to our partner, we're distracted. We're multitasking while we're talking to them, because it's easy when you're on the phone, right? It's easy to be doing 5 different other things. And so really making that time where it's one-on-one, just you two, and maybe you even just watch a movie together. Maybe you watch Netflix together. Maybe you play a game together virtually, or something, but where you guys are really connecting with each other and really focusing on each other. I think that is also like another really important part. Another important thing is actually planning on when you actually are going to physically meet. I
Mm.
think having that makes it seem like, okay, this relationship is going to go from this virtual thing to this real, like what we considered real relationship, so having that yes, we are going to meet at some point, yes, we are going to see each other, that I think really helps people. And then the last thing is something that we should do in all relationships: do little things to make the other person know that you're thinking about them, little things to make them feel special. And in a virtual relationship, it could even just be good morning and good night text, random article that you saw that you think they might like, just send that to them. Little gifts if you want to, just things to let them know that you are actually thinking about them throughout the day, because again, that takes away that insecurity that,
Yeah.
oh, this person doesn't even remember me when they're with everyone else. They only remember me at, at our set times or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that really helps with long distance relationships.
And how, obviously you mentioned there's a cultural difference. How would you encourage uh, Asian, South Asian, even Arab culture is very similar. How would you encourage somebody who doesn't want to speak or doesn't want to talk? How would you encourage somebody to communicate?
I think, one is just trying to figure out what their communication style is. Like, sometimes people are not comfortable talking, but they're more comfortable texting. Sometimes people just need to be asked the questions. Like, they're not gonna say it themselves, but if you ask them the question, and I think really just being vulnerable in front of them, and showing them that you are sharing with them, and um, really trying to understand the person, and hopefully if this person is committed to this relationship. Like, if they're not committed, then it's nearly impossible to get them to talk and
Yeah.
to open up. But if they're actually committed, but they're just maybe more of an introvert, maybe a little bit more shy, or maybe a little bit scared to open themselves up in that way, just being supportive of them. And then when they do tell you something, not even if it's something that you didn't want to hear, not overreacting at that point.
Yeah.
Because if you like, if, because, you know, people who are quieter are going to start to tell you things, but if you don't react in a way that they feel accepted and they feel validated with what they're saying, they're going to go back into that shell.
Yeah.
So as they start opening up, really being supportive at that point, really, you know, not acting out because you didn't like what they said, but trying to understand, okay, this is what you feel, you know, and just making them feel like their opinion and what they're saying matters and has weight and is valuable. Because I think a lot of times people don't want to say anything because they're not sure that what they have to say is interesting or it's valuable, or the other person, how the other person's going to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do when you struggle or you have a challenge? What goes through your mind? How does your mind work, and how do you stop that kind of negative thinking? What is that? What is that process?
I mean, yeah, the first thought always is, I can't do this, you know, or why does this always happen to me? But I think it's really then stepping back and figuring out, okay, what exactly is going on? What is the problem? And then rather than fretting over it, maybe I'll give myself 5-10 minutes. Okay, I am going to fret over it. I am going to be upset about it.
Yeah.
And then really sitting down and figuring out what is a good solution. How can I resolve this problem? How can I overcome this problem? You know, do I need someone's help? And whose help and whose advice could help me with this particular issue that I'm facing? You know, because the truth is that obstacles and setbacks come in every single person's life. And it's really just how we choose to deal with it. Like, I often tell the story about, okay, if
And
you
that's
were
why I'm
going
asking you, because people, it's not just the pandemic, but we have small little mini pandemics every day. We have struggles and situations every single day, don't we? And it's just how we process, how we perceive them, and then how are we going to solve them? So everybody has their own style and their own way of doing something.
it basically, the biggest thing is deciding you're not going to give up. It's really deciding, hey, I am going to face this challenge. At least I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to overcome.
And you've got a motto, haven't you? There's something that you actually, there's
I
something.
always say, concentrate on what you can do rather than on what you can't do, and God will make all things possible. So I would say focus on your strengths. You know, like for me, when I was in a wheelchair, that actually really helped me, because I was like, okay, I can't walk, I can't use my legs, but I can still use my hands. I can still use my smile. I can still use my mouth. I can still use my voice. I can still use my mind. You know, so I started focusing on what I can do. And I realized that everyone has handicaps. Everyone has things they cannot do in life. And some of them are more visible, like mine, and some of them are invisible. But you really can still do everything you want to do. You just have to figure out a different way to do it. Like, I can still get from point A to point B. I'm not going to walk there, but I'm going to wheel there. You know, so I always say that I could do everything you could do. My way is just going to be a little bit different. My path is going to be a little bit different. In the same way, you could do everything you want to do, what other people are doing. Your path is just going to be a little bit different. You have to figure out how you can do it.
Right. So feel the feelings, then step back, and then kind of analyze the situation.
Yeah, and then act. I think sometimes the biggest problem is that we don't act. Like, it's scary taking that step. You actually have to take that step, no matter how scary it is, no matter how much you are sure that you're going to fail or it's not going to work. Because if you don't try, you never know. And if you try, a lot of times, more often than not, you're going to be surprised.
Yeah, actually, yeah, exactly. And surprising ourselves in this 2020, definitely. And I think fear is, you know, the most one of those things that's holding everybody back. I think it's, if you come from a state of fear, it's always going to be something that you're going to kind of literally, you're stuck and stationary. So is there any advice that you would have given your younger self?
If I would give myself so much advice. I really, you know,
Knowing
just
all the things that you've done, and you know the experiences that you've had, what's probably the best advice that you would give to yourself?
I would really tell myself to stop worrying about what other people think. I think that has been one of my biggest problems. Like, I'm getting better, but I still do it. I still do it. But I'm getting much better. Like, when I first started on social media, I would have people write to me and they'd be like, you know, who are you to be advising us? Or have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You look
Oh,
like a witch,
really?
or you look like a a servant or whatever. They would try to tear me down. They would tell me I was fat. They would tell me I was ugly. They would tell me my accent was fake.
Oh
There'd just be a
gosh.
lot of different things. And I remember literally looking in the mirror for hours because I became insecure of how I looked, because I was like, do I really look like that? Like, they're saying I look like a witch.
Yeah.
Do I really look that bad?
How does one deal with that? I mean, that's anybody on social media is dealing with hate and negativity, but it does
Yeah,
seep through. It does seep through,
it does. And just, like worrying about, like, recently I had somebody, like 2 days ago, literally 2 days ago, somebody started posting in their stories that I was misguiding people and I was teaching wrong and that people shouldn't be following me. And I literally went through my videos again because I was like, what does she think I'm teaching wrong? Like,
Yeah.
where am I wrong? And so I actually watched my videos and I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, whatever I teach, I honestly believe in. I don't just teach it for the sake of,
Yeah.
views or likes or whatever,
But
right?
even you double guessed yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I will honestly, I will, but but what I've realized with all of this is that, one, we get 2 negative comments and we get 200 positive comments. How do
Yeah.
we choose to focus on those 2 negative comments? Like, like that one woman is like posting in her stories, but at
Yes.
the same time, if I go through my inbox, I've got 30 people or 50 people saying, hey, you know what? This video made a difference in my life. This changed my attitude. And so I have to always remind myself, I have to stop focusing on the people who are trying to tear me down. Of course, yes, if someone is saying something and, checking you, it's good to check yourself to make sure, because sometimes we are wrong.
Yes.
Sometimes we're not
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after you've done that and you are, you're confident that I don't think I'm wrong,
Yeah.
then you need to, realize that if they're hating on you, it's probably something to do with their own life and their own insecurities. A lot of times what I've started doing, one, I've realized on social media, the block button needs to be your best friend. We all hate to block people. I think most of us feel really bad
Yes.
when you block somebody, but I've realized that for your own peace of mind, if you just start blocking people who are spreading negativity for no reason, uh,
Right.
yes, you'll have one less follower, but you don't need that negative follower. You don't
No,
need
no,
them questioning
absolutely
other
not.
people's minds either, or putting questions in their minds about what you're saying or what you're doing, or in your own mind more than anything. So you really use the block button. You do not need those people. Two, I would say, respond. I always try to respond in love. Like, I've realized that if somebody is tearing me down, I'm not going to fight with them, because half the time that's what they want. They want the drama. They are bored and they
Yeah.
want drama. So I often will respond in a very positive way, like, thanks for that advice. I will, I'll try to, I'll help. Or, like, a lot of people are like, when I'm teaching English, I don't speak Hindi that perfectly because I grew up speaking English. I grew up in the States.
Yeah.
And so I recently, just today, I had somebody comment and say, your Hindi pronunciation is atrocious. And I was like, well, I'm really trying, but if you could help me out, that would really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So responding positively, and more often than not, I've seen when I do that, if I respond positively, people write back and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't what I meant. I'm like, I don't know what you meant by that, but okay, I'll take it. I won't fight with you over it, but they feel bad for having been mean to you because you're not being mean back to them. If
Yeah.
you're mean back to them, they feel vindicated, and it's like this big fight on your comments or something like that. But if you're nice back to them, one, you're setting an example for all the other people who are watching. Two, it frees you of that thing because you've responded, you've dealt with it, you're done. And three, it usually helps them too, because they somehow have some sort of a low self-esteem, or there's something going on in their life that they feel the need to be negative towards you. So, and then, the other thing, if it's not social media, if it's real life, if they're toxic people in your life, you really do need to distance yourself from them, because life is too short to be surrounded by negative people and negative thoughts and negative feelings that make you second guess yourself, that make you feel bad about yourself. Again, constructive criticism we take, but just hate. There's no reason that you need to take hate, no matter who it is that's trying to hate on you. You do not owe them anything. You do not owe them being silent and polite and kind. You have the right to just block them out of your life.
What's the best advice that you've been, oh, let me just, that's better. What's the best advice that you've been given from someone?
I think the best advice that I've been given is really just to always be you and don't let other people change you. Just be true to who
Nice.
you are.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, instead of just being who we are, we react to other people. We respond to other people, and that changes who we are when we're reacting, as
Yeah.
opposed to when we're just being ourselves. And I think learning to be yourself and being comfortable being yourself, I think is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. And I think that results in a lot of peace of mind, because a lot of people ask me, how can you be so happy all the time? Honestly, I'm not happy all the time. I do go through times, I'm not happy, but overall, I am pretty happy, actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I've realized that I could just be the best me, and really trying not to compete with other people. We all fall into that competition thing. I think on social media is all that numbers game, right? We look at other people and we're like, they have this many followers and I only have this many. And, and I sometimes fall into that game, and then I tell myself, you know what? No. And so I actually live in a social media bubble. I very rarely look at other people's accounts, because I found that when I do that, it messes with my mind. And I'm like, you know what? I just need to be better today than I was yesterday. I just need to do the things that I love to do, the passion that I have, and share that with the world. And I am not going to do things that mess with my mind. And I often tell people, especially on social media, because that is such a big part of our lives right now. If
Absolutely.
there are
It
people or
really does.
pages,
It does influence so many of us, consciously or subconsciously, and I think we must be aware of it.
yeah. So I would say, if you're following people that make you feel jealous, that
Yeah.
make you feel bad about yourself, it's not that they're doing something wrong. They might just be posting their wonderful travel pictures and
Yes.
their beautiful fashion pictures, and they're
Yeah.
a beautiful person. They're not doing anything wrong. But if following them makes you feel unsatisfied at your life, not, goal aspiration unsatisfied, but unsatisfied, like you look in the mirror and you're sad.
Yeah.
You feel like you haven't accomplished anything in life because you see what they have. Unfollow them. Unfollow all those people.
Yeah,
So
I like the fact that you're quite ruthless with the unfollow and the blocking. I like that because, I
it's
think that really there's no need, is there? There's no need for that.
there isn't. I mean, like, we choose who we're
Yeah.
following. We
Yeah.
choose who we're
Yeah.
yes, if it's a family member, maybe you're not going to block them or unfollow them, but there's settings, where you don't see their stuff. Like, you've muted them where they don't know that you're not seeing their stuff, but
Yeah.
you're doing, like, our mental health is our responsibility. No one else is going to take care of that.
Absolutely.
And so I think we need to really start. What would you tell your sister or your brother? Like, I often say, think about when you're talking to yourself, and when you're figuring out what like when you're being hard on yourself, or when you're advising yourself, think about what you would say to your sister or your brother, like your sibling, because those are the people that we give the best advice to, I think.
Yes.
How would you advise your sibling? And even, like, when people are hard on themselves after doing something wrong, I'm like, what would you advise your sibling in this situation? Yes, you were wrong, but how would you advise them? And they're like, I would tell them that, hey, you did something wrong, own up to it, but life doesn't end there. You need to move on. You need to forgive yourself. You need to be happy again. And I'm like, then now tell yourself that exact same thing.
Exactly.
Keep
We're
those words
not
to
kind to
yourself.
ourselves, are we? We're abundantly giving to others, and then we just neglect ourselves.
Like, you would tell your sibling, block them. You don't need to
Yes.
talk to them. You don't need them in your life. But when it comes to our life, we feel guilty blocking them. We feel guilty cutting them out of our lives.
Yeah.
Why can't you give yourself that same advice? And
Yeah.
I mean, I've really found that when you don't even listen to the gossip, or you don't listen to the negativity, for a little bit, you're curious. Like, I've had people come to me and say, you know what so-and-so said about you? And my new response is, I don't know, and I don't want to know.
Yes,
Please don't tell me.
exactly.
Because if they tell you, you want to know. Because if they tell you, you're going to keep thinking about it forever, like forever, because those words are, once they're in your mind, they're there. They don't.
They are, and then they occupy a certain amount of space and time, and it's for us to kind of kick them out, but
But if
exactly,
you
don't
don't
allow
listen,
that entrance in the first place.
yeah, then you'll be curious for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're going to let it go, because you don't even know what it was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for a little bit, you are going to be curious, you're going to think, but you're really going to let it go. And I found that this is a great way to keep your mental peace, is to actually not allow that negativity, not allow that gossip into your mind, especially when it's about you. It
Yeah.
really helps.
I just posted something on my Instagram where, I said that if it's a quote where you have purpose and goals, you're so busy in serving others, and you have a mission in life that you're not involved in any drama or gossip. So, and I think that once you are so focused and driven by what you want to achieve in life, I think that just makes life much more easier,
Yeah.
filtering out people and circumstances and situations where you don't really need to spend that energy. So what is it that you would like to do or see yourself in the next 5 years? Where is it that you're obviously we're going to see you on the big screen?
Yeah, that is where you're going to see me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that as soon as the pandemic ends, I will be able to go back to India, continue the work that I was doing there,
Yes.
with the slum kids, at-risk youth. Of course, those kids will be grown up by then.
Yeah, and
It'll
how
be
are they
amazing.
doing over there, by the way? I mean, at the moment, how is the situation over there? With
Unfortunately, everyone I talk to basically says life is back to normal. Like, people
oh,
are not
really?
taking the precautions they should be taking. People are not. I think it's the same around a lot of the world. Like, we feel like, yes, we should be taking precautions, but when it comes to our family, even our extended family, we feel like they're safe. When it
Yeah,
comes to our friends or our colleagues, we feel like they're safe.
yeah,
They're okay. We don't have to be so careful around them, but we don't realize that literally, aside from the bubble in your house, everyone else is being exposed to other people, and so you do not know who's been exposed to who. And so if you really, like, for me, it's my mom is older and we want to keep her safe, and so it's my brother's super strict. I'm gonna be honest, I've not literally left my house since March. He
yeah.
doesn't leave the house. So,
Absolutely. And I think that certain people haven't. I haven't left. My mother's older. She's elderly, and I haven't left the house. And you're right. My sister came down once to see us, and that was about it. And then, for Eid, and how are you dealing with being at home? I mean, I've worked from home. I always freelance from home anyway, so
I
I
think,
think I'm kind
like,
of used to it. But for someone who is, how did you deal with
again,
not going out?
social media has been a blessing.
Yes.
I make a lot of videos right now.
Yeah.
I've been posting a lot more. And then finally, like this week, I just decided, hey, you know what? I had a bunch of goals and dreams, and I was like, you know what? They're not going to be executed the way I thought they were going to be executed, because
Mm.
at this point, I really do not know when, there's the vaccine, but now there's this whole talk about other mutations of
Yeah.
coronavirus out there. So you just really don't know what even 2021 holds, although
Yeah.
we're all really hopeful and we're all, hoping for the best. So I actually, had been just like, I was making short films before, and it's been really hard to do that when you're
So
at
you
home.
actually not just acting, but also making them,
Yeah, like, it was acting
producing.
and then also producing them. And so
Yeah.
now I'm actually going to be producing short films that I may not be acting in, but producing them with the messages that I want to get across, and then adding my own message to the end of the video. So that's kind of the project that I'm working on right now. And hopefully, I mean, I just started like last week, and hopefully our first short film will be released at the beginning of the next year. So, I've got a team in Pakistan and a couple of teams in India that are working on it. So, it's going to be really
Oh,
multicultural, and I think it's going to be really exciting because, like, especially with the team in Pakistan, they were like, I don't think there's ever been like an Indian Pakistani collab like this before. And
oh,
so I'm
wonderful.
really
There
excited.
needs to be, and there's so much that there needs to be more bridging.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty excited about, collabing with them, and, especially because I love Pakistani dramas. So, I feel like they're better
Go
than
hooked on them.
the
Uh,
dramas that you make in India, right? And so so I'm really excited about that. But I'm excited about, like, I have different teams doing different things, and some
Brilliant.
of the videos that we're going to be coming out with hopefully are going to really help people, with their lives and their relationships, and because we're going to be covering topics even like adoption, and just, people cheating on each other, or uh, misunderstandings and how to deal with
Yes.
them, and just, really practical issues, as well as some, topics that maybe we don't talk as much about in, like, in Eastern culture. And so
Yeah,
really trying some of
definitely.
those
Definitely.
topics
And I
out
think there
as
needs to
well.
be a much more open dialogue, and that's the only way that we can promote understanding and, and better relationships. And I love the fact that, that I think the most important thing that we have is relationships, not only with yourself but others. And I think
Yes.
if you can build quality relationships, which I love, connecting people and communicating in all walks of life, I think that that's the basis of everything, that before you even start going to business or helping others, understanding yourself and having that relationship.
Yeah, so the question was actually 5 years from now, where do I see myself? I hopefully will have done something in Bollywood at that point. And
Yes.
I one of the things that I'm kind of passionate about that I want to start, that I have not yet started yet, is I would love to have like a talk show type of thing. So I want to do something like that. So I'm kind of going to figure out how to explore that more.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe kind of like what you're doing, like.
I was just going to say, I think you should be doing podcasting as well. And I encourage everybody that I know, you need to do a podcast as well, And I think but, with your such a huge following on TikTok and, all the other platforms as well. That's kind of like mini. I feel that sometimes people don't have the capacity to listen to such long interviews, and sometimes short form is really good, to kind of test, just to whet their appetite and then get them interested. So but no, definitely I can see you doing something kind of a talk show. That
but,
sounds
but I
good.
think that will be way in the future. Right now I've
Yeah.
just got so many other things on my plate that I have to really prioritize what is important
Yeah.
to me, and what I can physically do.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we end 2020 and look forward to, and I want people to look forward to 2021, what advice would you offer, Geet, that for those who haven't had such a wonderful year? And we've all had, circumstances, and we've had
Yeah.
disappointments and sadness. How can we enter, I would say, 2021 with positivity and excitement? What advice would you offer to the listeners?
Well, I think that 2021, I'm expecting it to be an amazing year. I always say that keep looking forward to uh, the plans that God has for you, the plans that you have for yourself. You know, don't spend a lot of time looking back. You know, our
Yeah,
eyes are in the front of our head because we're supposed to be looking forward. They're not on the back of our head. We're not supposed to be looking back and feeling sad about the things that we've lost, because we all have, and it's normal. It's normal to have setbacks. Imagine that you're going somewhere in a car and you get a flat tire. 2020 is that flat tire. But what do you do when you get a flat tire? Do you throw the car out and say, "Hey, this is junk"? Do you just stop and say, "Well, now there's nothing I can do"? No, you fix that tire. You either get a new tire, or you fix that tire, you put it back on, and you keep going, and you do reach your destination. So 2020 is that flat tire. You're not going to let it hold you back. You are going to fix that tire. You're going to put a new tire on there, and maybe that's 2021, and that
that's
is going
it.
to help you to keep going towards your final destination. Your car is not broken. Your car is fine. It just has a flat tire right now, and that tire is going to be fixed, and we're going to keep going, and we are going to achieve all those dreams and all those goals that you had.
Yeah, fix that Ferrari. Oh, that's so wonderful. And I really believe, and I wish, everybody that is listening, that they, enter 2021, with excitement and with positivity. And then we just have to have faith, faith in ourselves, and maneuver things accordingly. Nobody knows what's really in store for next year, but, we have to keep strong and keep positive.
And I think I'm sure you're going to be making more podcasts. And I think, going through this experience with you, I am going to definitely be subscribing and, listening in, because I think that what you're doing is an amazing thing. And I think bringing, different people on, different perspectives is going to be, I think that helps. I think that really helps. And especially because a lot of what we're doing right now, everyone is binge watching social media. So watching positive things like what you're putting out there is the need of the hour.
Oh,
Because that's
thank
what
you so
people's out
much,
there.
Geet. You know what? I just listened to your TikToks for so long, and I was, something resonates. You think, oh, I really like her, and I want her, and that's how it is. I want her to be a guest on my show. I want her to do something. I want him to be on, and the fact is that, the wheelchair was secondary to, I didn't even know about that. The fact that you just offered great advice is something that I resonated with. And then when I discovered that you had these other layers to you, and I was like, wow, she is incredible. So, thank you for ending our 2020 with such great advice. And I hope that everybody that is listening takes something, even if it's just one thing, and then applies it for next year. And whatever you do, it's not, there's one quote that I'm going to say, and I want you to kind of, maybe an inspirational quote or something that you say to encourage yourself when you're in a situation. I always say, there's a quote that I heard from John Jovi, back in the days. I'm from that era. So in one of his interviews, he says that every day above the ground is a good day. So is there a quote that you would like to leave everybody with, that is something that you resonate, or something that you use, or apply?
I mean, I think I said it earlier, but for me, really the thing that keeps me going is just concentrate on what you can do rather than on what you can't do, and God will make all things possible. And that's what I always tell myself, because my first thought always is, I can't. I just can't do this. And then I always realize, I can't. There's so many things I can't do. And with what I can do, if I don't focus on what I can't do, I will be able to achieve whatever I want to achieve.
Well, I wish you all the success for the future. And, I look forward to seeing you, on the big screen. And if you're in Pakistan or whenever you're in London, then, we must connect. And, I look forward to seeing you here, and wishing you all the success for 2021. But thank you so much, my darling. Really pleasure to talk to you and get to know you. And if I can help you with anything, then do let me know as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care, honey.